right. Good afternoon, Dr. Rybov. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm glad to see you.
I'm happy you could join us today. I'll be asking a few questions, beginning with what age did you decide that you wanted to pursue research?
Well, whether you decided? Well, I think I must be 6 years old. Whether you say that I want to be a scientist. I think that at that age, a lot of kids wanted to study animals or plants. Well, at least some kids. And I think that not everyone managed to keep with their early childhood promises. But I was lucky, so I was supported by my parents, and I was growing into teenage years thinking that I will be a marine biologist, and then I started studying in like later high school, my chemistry and biochemistry. I realized that I wanted to do molecular biology, and these were actually very exciting years. Molecular biology just started to expand. I'm talking about mid 80s. And so I was also lucky enough to go to quite a good university. That was the best place to do biology in Russia, and so that was my path was already established. So that was that's what happened to me.
So what are the origins of your interest in your field of study?
So I'm talking about. So well, I over the last several years, I've been working on viruses which infect insects, and in particular, viruses which infect aphids and more recently honeybees. And essentially, I came to this area from like heavy molecular biologists studying genome organizations, genome structure, and then I moved gradually to still keeping my molecular biology part into the ecological impact of viruses, and that was pretty exciting to find how pathogens could play a role not only as a pathogen which kills, which cause some damage, but also play a role in keeping a fine balance in nature. So that's why that's I mean the paper you're probably talking about, which you published a few years ago in PNAS on the effect of Denzavirus on wing morph development was actually a good example, because we actually started this work as a part of a very small, almost applied project on finding novel biopesticides. And we found viruses, and we are looking whether it's possible to use as a biopesticide. We found virus, and well, it causes some damage. And when we started digging a bit deeper, we found, well, it does have a negative impact, but it's actually positive impact is much stronger, which is pretty exciting outcome of this particular work. Yes.
Definitely. Would you say there's an event or individual that had a great influence on your interest in research?
Sorry, could you please repeat the question? Sorry.
Would you say there's an event or individual that had a great impact on your interest in your research?
All right. Hard to tell. Well, I think I couldn't say like one single thing which actually influenced me. Well, you could start from from very early childhood, when you found a pile of old textbooks, and then I could say that I was very lucky at my school years. I was already supported by my parents, and I did everything to nurture my interest. And I went to university, and at university I could say, well, I met few very interesting people while I was studying, and then I think, well, when I went to do my PhD, and I think that the best thing with my PhD was the fact that for half of my PhD term, my supervisor went away. I think he went away for like 1 year and a half to the United States, and I was actually left by my own to do my own work, and actually teach me very well. I mean, he contributed in this aspect. He contributed to me to learn how to plan work by myself without without asking anyone else for advice. And well, I could I think that in terms of what moved, I decided to do virology. I met few very good people, still my very early years, and one of them, you know this person called Eugene Koonin, which is actually a big star in NIH, in National Institute of Health. Eugene Koonin, and he kind of influenced me as well as some other people. Okay.
Very good. Would you say you have a favorite research project, and what about it made it your favorite?
Sorry, could you please repeat? Sorry.
Do you have a favorite research project, and what about that research project made it your favorite?
Right, favorite research project. I mean, currently I'm working on honeybee viruses, and your current project is your favorite project at the moment, so I think it's more exciting. Well, I could say that. Well, I think that honeybee work on honeybee viruses would probably is my currently it's a favorite project. You're preoccupied with this one, but I could say that aphid work was very nice, was very interesting as well, and should I have a chance to continue, well, it's if it possible to get funding, I would be very happy to do this one. But unfortunately, in science, it's not all about your desire to do what you want to do or even what you're able to do. It's all about comes to ability to obtain funding, ability to, well, at least we are scientists, we have to serve society, not only our curiosity, although that's probably main driving force to be a scientist.
Right.
Well, I think currently my favorite project is my work on honeybee viruses. In particular, it actually has a much stronger impact on basically on agriculture, and so it's actually more economically important. I could tell you that rather than my previous aphid work, and so it's fine.
Would you say, or what would you say is the highlight of your career then?
Sorry.
What would you say is the highlight of your career?
Well, I think that I'm still waiting for this moment. I'm still waiting. I hope the highlight for my career is still to come. Well, I think we did I could mention a couple of interesting things. So definitely my work on the impact of aphid pathogens, on the impact of aphid viruses was quite interesting, and in terms of output, I value it a lot because it's actually give an extra example of how what role viruses and pathogens in general may play in ecological systems. So it's they obviously move from being pathogens to mutualistic relationship, and finding the good examples and trying basically any examples give you kind of better understanding. So I think that also currently I'm working on a honeybee viruses, and I think that one of the small highlights was actually identification of some particular pathogenic, some strains of deformed bean virus, which are highly pathogenic, and so I've done some work in the United Kingdom, where I've been working over the last 20 years, and now I'm doing similar things in the United States, and it's quite interesting. It's very interesting. I hope that we will find for sure there'll be some very nice publications in the future.
Absolutely.
So I'm still waiting for highlight my career.
Makes sense. Have some time. What advice would you offer students that are interested in pursuing research?
Well, I think research is a very interesting area, and I'm sure that a lot of people will be able to do research, but I think one element which is absolutely essential, that you have to love it. If you don't love research, it will not worth an effort, because unfortunately work in science and work in research as being a research scientist trying to discover something is not an easy path. So you don't have a stable, it's not a stable career. You went from one country to another. I did my PhD in Russia. I went to United Kingdom. I've been to, well, there was 3 major places in the UK. I've been to Scotland. I've been to England. Now I came to United States. I'm coming back to UK next year at some point. So it's a lot of travel, and my advice is, well, it's great to do sometimes. I mean, well, what I want to say, it doesn't make any harm to do good research project, especially if you enjoy the company, if it's a good university, good colleagues, because you're learning so many skills which will be applicable in any area. And at some point, student will decide whether it is worth to stay in science, because it's, well, for a number of reasons. Well, you have to love it. If you have to ask whether it's really for you to go through this, or you would like to have a bit more normal life. That's what happened. No, I mean, but on the other side, work in science is very rewarding. It's very rewarding. It's one of the few areas where you could actually work and be creative, start project from the beginning, because obviously working on big organization, you don't have this possibility. So you could create something and you'll be paid for this. It's not a hobby, although you essentially you're carrying out something which you feel like your hobby, but you're paid for this, which is something not a lot of people could enjoy. And it's very rewarding, because normally you have plenty of like-minded people around you, and collaboration is normally great people. So you have if you like to travel, it's very basically science. Work in science actually requires a lot of travel. If you like it, that's great. That's great, and it's worth to try. It's worth to try if you have a desire, if you have abilities, if you have a drive. It's worth to try, but it's not an easy path. It's not an easy path, and you really have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy not necessarily the final moments, but also not necessarily highlights, but basically have to enjoy the process.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Is it fine? How is it?
Oh, great. My final question to you is, what do you wish was different about modern research? Are there any shortcomings you've had to face, or improvements you would make to the way modern research is conducted?
Right, okay. Well, it's a very serious question, and I would be happy to spend another hour talking on this. Well, I think that obviously, as I said before, well, science is not cheap business. Science requires a lot of input, and essentially we scientists are, but basically we depend on government and other funding body ability to fund our research. Work with the aphid viruses was a good example, because we found exciting phenomenon, but we couldn't persuade funding body to fund this work. Well, at the end of the day, governments and the funding bodies have a different idea. So I'm applying my skills to the new area, working with the viruses which government believes are more important, and they are actually important. So I think that's, I mean, personally, I did quite a lot of work in research institutes. I actually started in Russia and then in the United Kingdom, and currently I'm working with research institute as well. And recently, in the last, I could say, 10 years, there were a lot of reorganization of the research institutes in the United Kingdom, and I think it's not a necessarily good thing, because university system doesn't always allow to maintain expertise in certain area, to maintain the basically group of people with the knowledge and the technical knowledge and the ideas together. With university system, people tend to jump from project to project, and again, people moving around more. So I think it's not the best. So there were some good elements with the university system. It's nice to have a university environment if you're studying. And talking about United Kingdom, I think that research institutes are not getting enough credit for what they done earlier and what they could do. So, well, I'm gonna talk a lot about that. I'm gonna talk a lot about this, but I'm happy that I still have a chance to continue with my work, and I was always following I was always trying to work on the projects which are interesting, if possible. And if it was a choice, interesting project and not interesting project, it's better to go for interesting project, because in the longer term that will have an impact, and in the longer term that will be better for your career as well. Right. Don't compromise.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Argo.
Thank you.
And answering all
Thank
my
you.
questions.
It was nice.
It was very nice meeting you.